We're delighted to have partnered with NordVPN again for this season. We partnered with them last year, and they are, of course, a supporter of Rangers FC as an official sponsor there. And best of all, we can give you an exclusive NordVPN deal. If you go to nordvpn.com/heart and hand, you will get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and one additional month for free. Completely risk free. There's a 30-day money back guarantee with Nord. And look, I use this product, I would highly recommend it. I used to work in web, so I know how easy it is to steal people's data, especially if you're using a Wi-Fi system that is a shared one, or you're using 4 or 5G, then your details can be out there. With NordVPN, they're absolutely not. And there are other advantages to it as well. You can watch sporting events that maybe aren't being shown in your region. You can purchase flights from different virtual locations, and they do make your flights cheaper. This is very, very useful. What a price is in the UK isn't the same as what a price is in America or a price is on the continent. NordVPN can save you money. You can buy purchasing subscriptions from other countries at a cheaper price, and you protect your data while travelling and using public Wi-Fi. I keep coming back to that. Anyone who's at the hassle of a cancelled card will know what I'm talking about. So all you need to do is go to nordvpn.com/heart and hand, and you'll get a huge discount off your plan and 1 month additional free, completely risk-free. I urge you to do it.
Good evening, welcome back to Heart and Hand Extra. This is your second show of the week, and I am your host, Adam Thornton. Joining me tonight for the first extra in about 6 weeks is, first of all, Martyn Ramsey. Martyn, how are you?
I'm well, Adam. Good to be on. Good to be back.
It is good to be back. We've also got David as well. David, how are you doing?
Proper football, yes. Delighted that it has returned, and delighted we've got 6 points so far, so that helps as well.
It does. That's kind of where I want to start, to be honest, because it is a results business. Michael Beale has said today in his press conference, or this afternoon in his press conference, that the result is the most important thing right now. He does want to see performance improvements. Obviously, I think we probably need that to have any kind of success. Martyn, I'm quite wary because when Van Bronckhorst came back in last year, it was performances were out the window, and all we cared about was getting a result, and we got 6 or 7 of them on the spin at this time last year. Obviously, things are completely different now in terms of where we are, the manager coming in, injury situations, players that we've got available, finances, all that sort of stuff. Is it just a case of we won these 2 games, let's forget about it and get over it? The injuries are a big factor, and they're getting bigger by the day, it seems like. Or is there something there that maybe we should be, I don't want to say concerned about, because we're a week into competitive football there, but is there maybe something there that we think we actually need to begin to start getting a tune out of these players, and not relying on individuals pulling us out of hole?
Yeah. I was thinking about that today, actually, that it is very similar to around this time last year, and you and I having that discussion about what we were seeing, and I don't think it was unreasonable to give Gio that short-term pass, just as it would be for Beale in this situation, to come in at a difficult time and just get points on the board and just get wins back on, and manage a difficult situation. Obviously, the 2 situations are different, but they were both challenging in their own way. But eventually, that runs out, and eventually you have to develop and coach and grow what you have, and he obviously wasn't able to do that, and time will tell what January onwards will bring. There is stuff to be concerned about. It's not new concerns. Most of what we saw on Tuesday night until about 92 minutes was everything we've seen for years. Decent start, get ahead, stop. Look timid, look terrified, look out of ideas. Then sometimes things begin to fall, but we don't take those chances. Normally, time runs out, and we've seen that story before. A slight twist on an old tale here, that we actually, do the biz in injury time. We'll also talk about that in a moment. But if you're the manager, if you're trying to keep those messages positive, he completely understands. You can see by his body language, which I think all managers put on, to be honest, when they're on the touchline. That was such a perfect opportunity for someone to look miserable whilst inside probably doing cartwheels, because he knows that was not a great show. He knows he's still got loads of work to do, but they've found a way. And he gets credited with that, and we move on with 6 points out of 6, and we just kind of continue. So he is well aware. He said after the Hibs game that a lot of the shapes and the rhythms and the connections aren't there, and he's not expecting them to be there yet because it's too soon. The things he's asking for. But there are limitations, though. We know that can't continue forever. And he knows that as well. But at this minute in time, yeah, it is really just about getting through before he can maybe make some moves or do whatever he's going to do in January and then really start to do some kind of longer term work. But the notion that these two goals, because we haven't seen that since Goldson's goal at Rugby Park, the opening day of 2019-20, that's somehow a corner turned and we're going to go on some wonderful run. I mean, I'd buy that if anyone was selling it, but I don't think there's anything automatic about that in any way, shape or form. We still have huge issues because that performance for the most half was poor and all too familiar.
And David, to be fair, I'm not sure we're getting caught up in, as a fan base, we're getting caught up in these two wins against third and fourth in the league, absolutely, and any win at Pittodrie is fine. But I wouldn't say fans are getting caught up in it in a way that we might have in the past and thought, we won this game, therefore we are brilliant. There does seem to be a healthy dose of cynicism, even more than we're used to. Do you think that's maybe because fans maybe weren't as over the top enthused with Michael Beale, or it wasn't a unanimous type approval thing? Or do you think we're just getting a wee bit more realistic, I guess, about where we are right now?
No, I think Michael Beale has impressed everyone, when even the people who were maybe doubters with him. Although there is, interestingly, still, I noticed that both myself and Stevie at Four Lads were getting tweets in both matches when we've been behind from people saying things like, "You wanted him. This is what you wanted," and it's like, guys, we've been here a month. But I actually think, Adam, what it comes down to is that Rangers fans, when Beale came in, he said, this club, this squad isn't broken. And I think that he was, he has to say that. He absolutely has to say that. But I think the fans knew just how deep the problems ran. And I think, Beale has kind of alluded to it when he said, the players have been through a lot, their confidence is lacking, that we're aware of the foibles of this Rangers team, the idiosyncrasies. Martyn nailed one there, taking a lead and then stopping. Fallen behind in games. I believe that's 22 of the last 55 games that Rangers have been behind, and that's far too much for a club like Rangers who have so much of the ball. You can't be falling behind in as many games like that. It's unsustainable. You will drop points. So I think that the fans are aware of just quite how deep the problems go, and you don't turn them around in a month. It would be lovely if we did, but it takes a while. It takes a while for. First of all, for us to get our injured players back inside, that's one thing. Then it takes a wee while to build up the confidence, and then to start trying the things that we know that he wants them to do. Now, with that though, the fine margins, yada yada, that we talk about. I'd rather have a manager who was lucky when things weren't quite perfect than wasn't. And I don't think anyone was fooled by that result the other night. When the second goal went in, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, and it's quite funny because it was a universal reaction. When the second goal went in, we all went, oh, very good, or an equivalent of it. It didn't really mean anything. When the third went in, we all went nuts. Martyn's right when he points out this is not something that this Rangers team have had in its armoury. It really isn't. That they've not been very good at chasing late winners. They haven't done it. They certainly haven't done two in injury time. I mean, it was 94 minutes on the clock and Aberdeen were winning. And Rangers somehow turned it around. There's a bit of luck in that. There's also effort, and we credit other teams when they do it for keeping going to the final whistle. Rangers did do that. I do think that even a few weeks ago, that Rangers team, even if they'd got an equaliser in the last minute, would have stopped then and said, "Well, we got an equaliser." But that has happened before with Rangers. Do you remember the St Mirren Cup game a couple of seasons ago, where Rangers get an equaliser and stop, and St Mirren run up the park and score. So we have seen that, but as I say, at the moment, it is about results. We would expect a gradual improvement in performance. I think the issue might be if you were expecting new manager comes in, has 3 weeks with them, they come out and they look brilliant. That was never, ever going to happen. It's about calibrating your expectations. And there will be bumps in the road. This is the thing. We are going to lose or certainly draw at some point over the next few months. It's just a fact. But get wins early, build up that little bit of patience, build up that little bit of belief among the players as well as the supporters, and it makes the job a whole lot easier. And look, they do deserve credit for their character and for fighting for it. I'm not sure, as I say, that would have happened even 6 weeks ago, but it's not sustainable, these performance levels. Rangers were really bad, really, really bad, particularly the second half. Ironically, there was some good play in the first half. There was nothing in that second half at all, right up until Scott Arfield came on and started basically him and Tillman making chances.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if we were to play like that, the passing was diabolical, and Rangers put ourselves under so much pressure with easy transitions. And teams are recognising that, and they're pressing us in the middle of the park because they know we give the ball away when we're under pressure. That's something that you'll need to cut out. But I'd far rather be winning the matches than not. And credit to Rangers, they obviously looked at last week's 3-2 and went, well, that's a bit too comfortable. We'll put them through the ringer even further this week.
Yeah, Martyn, at the risk of sounding a bit like Del Boy, you do make your own luck sometimes in terms of being in. We always talk about, I was talking about this earlier on, when you get in the last 5 minutes and you're drawing a game or you're losing a game, someone in the pub will always say, we'll get one chance, we'll get one chance, and we just need to take it. Scott Arfield had 4 chances on Tuesday night, and that probably sums Scott Arfield up. For those of you who are long-term listeners to Tactics Talk on Patreon, I've always been a fan of Arfield in terms of the impact he can have. I think consistency of fitness first of all, and then obviously consistency in terms of just his actual style of play has always been maybe lacking slightly. We can think of those misses that he's had against Braga. Then obviously we think of fantastic goals like the Scottish Cup semi-final. It does kind of sum him up, that, and I think when you can harness that impact, it is one thing to say, "Oh, we were lucky in this game," but it's quite another when you look at the equaliser. I think in particular where Ryan Kent, playing in a central role, comes in, has a shot with his left foot. It's not a particularly great shot. It bounces in front of Kel Roos and he spills it. But as soon as the ball leaves Kent's foot, you see Arfield just making a beeline, just getting in there to try and get up any scraps. Morelos is absolutely stationary next to him, doesn't even attempt to make a move for the ball. But Arfield is the one who's on his toes, making his own luck in that sense. I think that is something that we're really, really missing from the team. We're missing players who are just a little bit more direct and will go and have a go. If it doesn't come off, as it didn't for Arfield a couple of times before that in the game, you know he's going to come in and have a go again. And I think we do miss those type of players, and that's something that I think we need to either get them back in the team if we're talking about maybe someone like Lawrence or even Alex Lowry or Hadji, but more importantly try and recruit more of them, because I think if we could get someone like Arfield or a couple like Arfield who are able to consistently deliver, I think it could make a big difference for us.
Well, it's game changers, isn't it? It's not the exhaling and the sighing when the manager can only replace like for like, and it's just the same in the last 20 minutes as you've seen for the first 70. I think you summed that up perfectly. That was a perfect distillation of Scott Arfield. He's intelligent. He makes brilliant runs. He always does. Does he need too many chances to get a goal? Possibly. And again, can he do that for 90 minutes? Certainly this stage of his career, probably not. But he is a useful sub to have for sure, for the reasons you mentioned. The head doesn't go down because he's missed 2 good chances, especially the second one, Adam, where you really has to bury, and you're thinking, right, that's it. That's your guy in the pub there. That's the chance. And he's still aware, and he's still willing to take the risk, and he's still willing to take the gamble. A dreadful goalkeeping, but he took the punt on it. You're right. Other players, predatory number 9s, etc., were not. So I think he does have to take credit there, and for being in the right place at the right time for that third. What I would say about the third, and it wasn't desperation stations, even in the few chances that we did start to create before the 90 minutes were up, Adam, weren't hitting hopes. We were trying to walk the ball around the edge of the box, and it was intelligent. We lacked the final touch. That's why we were still losing in 94 minutes. But we were trying to work those openings, and that third goal, so much praise has to go to Tillman for not just swinging his right foot at it first time he gets it in the side of the box and just hoping that it falls. He waits and he waits and he moves the boy around until he thinks he's got the best opportunity to put in a beautiful kind of hanging ball that creates that kind of havoc. And yeah, we still get the break of the ball. How close was that to, Goldson effectively fouling? But we've got to give Rangers players credit when it's due, and there would be a nice bit of patience and composure in the very last throws of the game, which will just sadly lacking throughout the 90 odd minutes, and that's the issue. The game was a disgraceful football match. It was just wild. No one had their foot in the ball, and that's what Rangers need to do better. We do have, or we should have, players that can show a lot more composure and can dictate our kind of game, which we hinted at bits and pieces in the start of the game, but it just deteriorated. And it was Aberdeen's game. But it was late in the day where we did show those moments again, and yeah, we got the reward.
Interestingly, to Martyn's point about the quality of the match, all 5 goals, there was mistakes in them. All 5.
Oh, yeah.
The first one, the defender should clear passes it straight back to Sakala after Sakala's miskicked it, incidentally. The first one for us. The 2 goals Martyn's just described there. The keeper makes a mistake. The central defender heads the ball right across his own 6-yard box straight to Scott Arfield. But even our 2 were dreadful. Sakala gives the ball away in midfield. Sands is suddenly exposed, doesn't win the tackle, and then fouls a guy, and then McGregor should save it. Second goal, Sands doesn't get enough on a clearance. So it was a very low quality game of football, which doesn't suit us, because when it becomes scrappy and it breaks down like that, it doesn't suit us. We're a team who are better when we're playing football, but you need to have the confidence to play football. And when Rangers were passing it as badly as they were, I know I'm harping on about this, but you really had to see this game to believe it. And I watched it back in the calm light of day when Rangers, I knew had won, and I knew that there was this lovely sweet treat coming for me at the end of it. But I was still raging because they were just simple passes that were going astray. Tavernier passing continually from the flank into midfield straight to Aberdeen players. Lundstrom passing the ball straight out. Sands passing the ball straight out. Morelos failing with a layoff, which was literally a yard. It was so frustrating, but they found a way to win. And Rangers need to almost kind of refine that identity, to find that identity that said we are going to try that. Now, we'll be helped by bringing back players like Lawrence and Hadji and Roof and whatnot, guys who will do that extra thing and bring you that extra bit of quality. But it was an important victory in the sense of just getting it over the line. And then, of course, if you cannot take confidence from the way that we've done that, then I don't know what will give them confidence.
Yeah, it's a fine margins point again for me, because obviously you mentioned those mistakes. Most of the goals that we concede, I think, come from a mistake. Even go back to the 2 against Hibs as well. It does seem to happen. It's individual errors that cause us issues in games. And I think one of the big things that we've seen, again, not to harp back when Van Bronckhorst came in, we absolutely tightened that up. We didn't see some of the mistakes that we'd seen, whether it was McGregor against Ross County, McGregor against Hearts, various other ones, but we didn't see those. But how often have teams, like, to pick them out, Livingston and Motherwell, came to Ibrox and played an absolute perfect out of this world game, never made any mistake, and then you watch them the week after and they're kicking themselves in the face and doing all sorts against random teams. So,
look, I think the absolute bet of this weekend is St Mirren to beat Aberdeen.
100%.
Yeah, I really do. And I'm not even going to look at a form book or a head-to-head. I'll be putting a hefty wedge on it.
So that's obviously them.
But you're going to get that. That's the price of being the big club with the fancy stadium and the great facilities that people are buying up for the game. We know with Aberdeen, it's, they're cup final. It's a cliche because it's true. And I think that we see that with our players. And the issue is that far too often, Adam, I go back to that 22 and 55 stat. Far too often we give teams something to hang on to, which again gives them an extra 5-10% in the legs. We saw that with Livingston at Ibrox a few months ago. So it's about just getting ourselves into good positions. One of the things Michael Beale absolutely has to identify is why Rangers, when they do find themselves in positions of ascendancy, fail to go on and capitalise. We could put games away. The other night was a great example. We're 1-0 up. Aberdeen are rocking. We've just had a good chance. And then Rangers stop doing the things that brought them to that point in the match and don't do them for another 70 minutes, as it turns out. It's about making life easier on yourself a little bit. And that, I think, will be his key message to them, which is you're not far off, but you're making silly mistakes at crucial times. And then you're also not applying yourselves in the right stages of matches. We know there's an ebb and flow to football matches. We know that no team is really bang on it for 90 minutes. But when Rangers are dominant and can put and do have the players to put the game to bed, we need to start doing it.
100%. I think you're right. It's encapsulated in that first half. Even I know we were terrible in the second half, but even in the first half, Sakala gets that goal. You're right. A wee bit of fortune. He's there again to get it. Morelos has that shot 3 minutes later, which he should be scoring. That's a real bugbear of mine, that regardless of where he is, he just wants to smash it right at the keeper rather than just rolling into a corner like a normal striker would do. But by the by, but then we have one more shot in that half, and it's Sakala about half an hour later, literally 3 minutes before Aberdeen's goal. So that's, to your point, David, absolutely. We get a shot, we get a goal. We almost get another goal right after it, but then for whatever reason, we just settle and we just sit back and we don't capitalise on it. We've seen again that Ross County game I mentioned that happened. We got Diallo scored in the first couple of minutes and we sat back and invited them on. I'm not sure what that is. It crosses a couple of managers now, so it must just be some sort of confidence thing. Martyn, we never like to make too much of injuries, or I don't like to make too much of injuries. But when it gets to the point that we're at just now, I'm not really sure we can. We've obviously had a bit more news at the press conferences in the last couple of weeks with Michael Beale coming in, and we got some more today. I just want to list where we are at the minute, because it is sizable, and it maybe will explain a couple of the situations that we've got, or why we're not maybe seeing more of a style coming through in these early weeks. Tavernier, we're led to believe, missed training twice last week, has been suffering with flu. Obviously, Goldson just came back in, played his first 90 in 3 months, I think it will be. Ben Davies has played half an hour of football in the last month or so. We've obviously not got Barisic, we've not got Yilmaz, we don't have Suter, King, we've not had King, we've not had Helander. So basically no senior defender is fully fit or has been fully fit in the last couple of weeks. The only first team player, really, or first team squad player is Adam Devine, who's been available. Then obviously moving into midfield, we know Davis is away for a scan. We'll have to wait and see what's happened there. Michael Beale said that Glenn Kamara has some kind of injury that, for whatever reason, hasn't needed surgery, but has to be managed. Ryan Jack is just back from injury and he's having his minutes managed. Yanis Hadji is still a month away from training, I think it is. Alex Lowry has been in and out of the training, hasn't been seen in the first team for a while. Who else? Tom Lawrence, three or 4 months now out injured. Kamar Roof has only played a couple of games this year. I'm probably missing some more from that, but it is sizable. The one that always comes to mind for me is that Hibs game. Is it 96 or 97 where we had 23 players off with flu? We're not quite at that stage, but it has to be a reason, and it has to be an excuse, I guess, partial excuse there. But as Michael Beale said today, the teams that have taken the field in these two games should be able to take care of Hibs and Aberdeen in more of a kind of controlled fashion than they have been. But I don't think we can really discount, particularly trying to get a new style embedded, particularly the time of year, the players specifically that are out as well. I don't think we can see it as anything other than quite a big factor.
Of course, it's a big factor. There's no excuses. There are reasons, and these are legitimate. Add in just the general lack of confidence that has developed this season. The Champions League hammerings have not helped that. So we know what the mood's like at the moment, and it's maybe the one issue with what people saw as maybe the safe bet, the safe option for the board in bringing Beale in, is that it's not brand new. It isn't. He's obviously been here quite recently, so you don't get that novelty bounce that you sometimes get from a completely breath of fresh air, a completely new voice. So that it still feels that there's some kind of continuity there. So many factors that I think are absolutely fair. So it's a longer term job. It's not going to be solved in the training ground this week. It's probably not going to be solved in the January transfer window. So it's our choice as a support, really, as to what we can do in terms of just holding our fire, and allowing him to do that job. The injuries are ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if David feels the same way, but I guess Rangers fans of a certain age, certainly mine, I think we're just kind of immune to this being so bad because we're just so used to it. Mm-hmm. We just grew up being so used to it. That 96-97 season, you're absolutely right. I think there were 4 players that took to the field at Easter Road that night who were, well, not ill. And it got worse as the season went on. I'm still half expecting to see Mark Hateley bound through Glasgow Airport with his bag and just ready to kind of pop onto the field with Andy Dibble next week. But it's our story. It's kind of part of the narrative. So because of that, I think we can sometimes just downplay just how insane that list is that you rhymed off there, and you try to compare with certainly other squads in this division or one other squad in this division, but even some elite clubs. I know they've got far bigger squads and all that, but it's still a hefty number of first choice or next to first choice players that aren't available or aren't well. And it's because it's Rangers. We don't like making excuses. We don't allow it. I'm not sure. Then we can have a proper adult conversation about just how ridiculous this season's been for that.
Especially when I think we're
sorry, Adam. The issue that comes with it is that I think that we can have 2 ideas coexisting in our brains at the same time when it comes to this, which is firstly, this is a sizable injury list. This is a problem. Look at the key players that we don't have in the team. The defensive situation has been ludicrous. I mean, you would be restarting a game on Football Manager if this happened to you. But equally, when Rangers take to the field, we still expect them to win. And that is the issue. It doesn't really... So even though I think most people, when they're being sensible, but when emotion takes over, it's logic and emotion. And when emotion takes over, you just want Rangers to win. Going back to Adam's point right at the start, it means that if he can, that Michael Beale and this, whatever Rangers team he can put at the moment, can get the victories and can get the points right now, that when the players come back and settle into the side and he has much more options, or many more options rather, then you would expect an upturn both in performances, as well as results. So right now is just about getting through. Where the issue with Van Bronckhorst is that the expected performance never came. He never got out of that cycle of all that matters is winning. And then that meant that when we weren't winning, there was nothing to hold on to, and that's why he's no longer there. And Beale's a savvy guy. He'll know this. I mean, he's looked at what happened and why the job became available in the first place, and he'll be aware that there is a pressure on him to want to go out. And look, anyone who's seen an interview with him or heard him speak or read articles about him knows that he is not a pure results guy in terms of, I don't care how we win so long as we win long term. He will want us playing an attractive style of football. So it is just interesting. At the moment, I don't think he's really had time to catch his breath with the matches. They're coming thick and fast. But of course, having the guys back, the names you've rhymed off there will help. It couldn't possibly not. When you're adding quality players like Lawrence, like Hadji, like Ruth, like Yilmaz back into the side, it's going to make a heck of a difference.
I forgot Morelos and Lundstrom. press conference today are both carrying knocks. Lundstrom had to take an injection to be on the bench on Tuesday, and Morelos pulled up injured on Monday, I think it was, but is still managing to play. So yeah, add another 2 to that list. Press conference was today. Michael Beale is very chatty, Martyn, in press conferences. He likes to share, loves a soundbite. Maybe polar opposite to Van Bronckhorst, who was very happy just to get through them without saying too much or giving anything away. One of the questions I asked the manager today was, is there a particular skill set that you'd either like to add to the team, whether that's a returning player or maybe in the January transfer market? He came back and said he wants to see where he is when everyone is fit. And if that's not going to be until the
Good
start
luck
of
with that.
February, then that's when he can assess the squad. But um, I think he then said later on, when someone asked, "Well, the transfer window shuts at the end of January. Does that mean you're not going to bring anyone in the window?" And he sort of caveated that by saying, "Well, we had one or two areas that we want to strengthen anyway. So we'll have to wait and see." But I don't really think we can get to a point where everyone is fit, because, as you've said, it very rarely happens anyway. So I think that's maybe just in a sort of ideal world, it would be great if we got to the end of January, start of February, and we had everyone fit plus another couple of recruits. But I think we're going to have to see improvements in style and have players, I guess, decisions made on them maybe a little bit sooner than that.
Yeah, he knows what he's dealing with. David's right. He's not unaware of why and how he got this job, and he will have watched this team on a regular basis since he's been away, so he'll know enough, I think, about where he would feel the need to strengthen. He's not going to get that clean slate with everyone fit and ready to go. It doesn't happen to most clubs. Certainly doesn't happen to this club. So, be prepared for that. He must know what areas of the pitch he's going to need to strengthen anyway. You would hope, and we can make a start on that. As I said, not concluding it, because that isn't going to be done in one window. Certainly not a January window. So yeah, we'll see. I can't agree with you more about how different he is in conversation, and it is a conversation, to Van Bronckhorst, who I think felt it was his mission to say nothing.
It was media trained guy
Yeah.
for 30 years. He's used to doing that. He
Yeah,
shuts down
that's the
conversation
difference.
automatically.
That's the difference. Van Bronckhorst was a megastar player who, from an early age, had been taught to say as little as possible and as an anodyne a way as possible. And Michael Beale just loves football.
Yeah.
Loves his job. Loves talking about it. Would talk the arse off you. And that passion, that enthusiasm, I don't think he can hide. I don't think he can curb. But he's going to have to be careful, because this is a big job and it comes with a lot of scrutiny. And, the streets don't forget the things you say. David mentioned earlier about what else was he going to say, when he was talking about this team isn't broken. Well, there's ways of saying it. We know it's broken. We wouldn't be in the job if it wasn't. There's ways of saying we have improvements to be, but I still believe in a lot of what we have here. Compare with Van Bronckhorst at the end of the window in August, when he made that ridiculous comment about what he felt about the strength of his squad, and not adding to that, which, again, people say, well, what do you want him to say? So, well, how difficult was it to say we're always looking to strengthen at Rangers?
Yeah.
Well, and we're never happy. Players should never be complacent. Players should never be completely comfortable. I'm always looking, and if the right deal comes up, I'll do it. If it doesn't, and we're held to ransom, I won't do that. But we're always looking. There you go. But he was strung by those words, and there is a fear that because Beale is just so enthusiastic, so conversational, that he might drop in the odd thing that will cause him problems. He's already had that this week, hasn't he? With the other
Already
team.
had it with QPR. Let's be honest.
Of course.
After
But
the comment there, so,
a lot of it, I don't have any issues that it's not genuine.
No, 100%.
But it's just he's going to have to be maybe a wee bit more careful, and we've got to be careful what we wish for as well as fans and as fan media, because we were frustrated beyond belief with Gerrard as well about just how little you actually got. So what's the point of even having these kind of conversations? Just cliche after cliche. That isn't really the case here. So on the one hand, that's good. We can hopefully get a wee bit more understanding, a wee bit more explanation. But on the other side, as a fan, you think, well, don't give too much away, Michael, here. So it's always a balance.
See, on that though, Martyn, I think that while there is the risk that you mentioned, and I'm sure, by the way, there will be a situation where something he says in the cold light of a defeat or whatever will come back. People will refer to something from a few weeks ago. I know that will happen. But I think that the way he is engineering a bond between him and the fan that Gio never
absolutely.
made.
Absolutely.
Because I think you nailed it there when you said here is a guy who loves his job, loves the club genuinely. And I'm not saying Gio didn't, by the way. This is not a criticism of Gio. I'm just saying that Beale, there's something really honestly endearing about him. I think that there's a real genuine heart on the sleeveness that's very difficult not to warm to. And I think that there's always, when you see an outsider, in inverted commas, someone who hasn't grown up with it, come in and just fall for the club in the same way we do, then it does something, to you as a fan. And I do think that was a problem for Gio in the end, that he just didn't ever manage to establish that connection. And I can see Beale doing that. But the other side of that, the negative to that is, when you have that relationship, it's very emotional, and sometimes we shout at the ones we love, and that will happen. After a defeat or whatever, people will do that. But I still think overall it'll be beneficial. And look, the fans these days, with 24/7, we're all over it. That we consume everything. I think you do have to give a little bit more than the standard stock answers. Otherwise, you will face that problem. And at a club like Rangers, I think that's a very difficult issue. And when push came to shove on Van Bronckhorst, he didn't have the defenders that a guy with his record might have, incidentally, had it been another coach. Gerrard had it, for example.
It's almost like that, I guess, in a politics. I can't believe I'm going to use a politics analogy, but in a kind of politics term, maybe like the swing voters, or getting that middle ground where you've sort of got people in there who can be, I guess, swung between positive and negative. They maybe don't say as much, but I think, to your point, David, it didn't take much for them to move towards negative with Van Bronckhorst. It took a lot more for them to move towards negative with Gerrard. And those type of fans or people or personalities, Martyn, whatever you want to call them, will probably warm more, as David is saying, to someone like Beale, who comes in, clearly loves the club, loves his job, and wants to share, wants to, within reason, share his ideas, share his thinking, share his thinking on players. I think the results absolutely need to be there, but I think you're probably more likely as a Rangers fan to stick with a personality like a Michael Beale than maybe someone that's a little bit more reserved.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree, especially if his teams are a kind of manifestation of his personality as well, and there's something about them. They are giving everything, and obviously fans can relate to that. It's about buying time, and he's going to need it, because he's as Van Bronckhorst was coming in at a time where there are some issues. Obviously, a far harder situation than Van Bronckhorst was, but he still had a very difficult winter schedule to negotiate and all that. So it's about buying that time, buying that credit, and I would completely agree. If you are the reserved ultra pro, almost cool to the point of being horizontal, and your teams play like that, you have to win everything. Your results need to be absolutely spick and span, because that coolness, it turns sterile quite quickly in the minds of supporters, and you're going to have to win a European trophy. You know what I mean? To just buy that time, you're going to have to do something that's just kind of undoable. Whereas, yeah, I mean, we've talked umpteen times, and you've written the book on it, but Gerrard could have been punted before we eventually got it right. But his charisma, his stature, it just buys that wee bit more patience. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Listen, there's no perfect manager out there. There's no perfect way to do it, and there will be difficulties. But if you're loved, then yeah, you get a wee bit more give, don't you?
You do. David's. I was going to say it feels like a lottery just now in terms of what we're going to get from Rangers in each game. For being honest, it probably feels like that for the last 18 months or so, for good or bad. And I think that's maybe part of the issue. But we go again tomorrow with another roll of the dice against Ross County. Another first for me, I have to say, is the manager coming out and saying it's definitely going to be 5 changes to the starting lineup. I think that speaks to what we've just been talking about. I was a
Quite a
little
League
bit
Cup
shocked.
thing, isn't it, Adam? It's quite a cup. And managers, if they ever do it, it's because they've got Forfar at Ibrox and Sunday. And
it is quite a strange thing, I think, to do anyway, but then also to come out and say it. And then also, David, you add on this layer of, do we have another 5 players that are available? We've been trying all
Andy
afternoon
Dibble,
to figure out. We've been trying all afternoon to figure it out, David, and I'm not sure I can really do it. I don't know what your thoughts are. He had a bit of an impassioned defence of McGregor and Morelos today at the press conferences, so I'm going to assume it's not them. I guess Ben Davies will come in. I guess he was talking about managing Jack and Kamara's minutes, so maybe Lundstrom and Arfield will be coming in. He said Arfield, much to Martyn's dismay, has been banging on the door for a start. So it might be him that's coming in. Other than that, I'm kind of stumped. Is it maybe Matondo, maybe Alex Lowry, maybe Leon King coming in somewhere? What's your thoughts on who the 5 will be?
Yeah, I think Arfield and Davis are absolute nailed on to come into the side. Then you look around the side and possibly Lundstrom, possibly Matondo, and possibly Lowry. It is difficult to see. It depends on what he wants to do. Cholak not making it, that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. So no, I'm intrigued to see what the lineup is. And as you say, that's what makes predicting so very difficult with Rangers at the moment, because you don't know what the lineup's going to be, and you don't know how fit the players who are on the field are going to be. You underestimate Ross County at your peril as well. They've had results against us and Celtic over the last couple of seasons, and especially at home, they are solid, they are confident, and they will give us a really good game. And Rangers will need to be up for it. It will be a physical battle first and foremost, but Rangers will have to be doing the things that we've discussed there and not getting dragged into a battle. It happened to us in the 3-3 draw earlier this season, and you could argue that that's where, even though that fantastic European run domestically, that's where things started to go wrong for Gio that day. And Rangers will need to be aware of that, because it's a side who treat it as a free hit against Rangers and will have looked at our away form and think, we can get at this lot today. So Rangers will need to improve dramatically from the other night. He did make 4 changes during the game, Adam, and I don't think that any of the 4 players who went off could have any complaints if they weren't going to be used on Friday night. So you could see an entirely new midfield shape. You could see a new system. It could be anything. But no, I am genuinely intrigued to see what these changes are and see what it leads to. It's not going to be an easy game. I don't believe that teams can suddenly just go from playing the way that Rangers have been playing to playing fantastically. I think there's increments. I think there's gradual, and getting results during that does help. But I think we'll win, but I certainly don't see it being a steamroller victory.
In the last 7 games against Ross County, Martyn, we scored 28 goals, so it's been an average of 4 goals a game. They do have a go to a certain extent. They are a little bit open with us. They kind of like to play in that right way, if you like. They won't come and just shut up shop. So possibly that'll help us. Who knows if that will change, given how different we are in terms of players available, etc. I really can't look at this game and think Rangers need to do this and Rangers need to do that, just because of the situation that we're in and because of the injuries, etc. I hate just saying it is just about results, but see, to be honest, over these next 3 games, it really, really is just about getting the head down and trying to batter through, even just getting to the January window. We obviously don't have a break anymore, but at that point,
Yeah.
it sort of settles down into just 1 game a week, I think, after Celtic pretty much. So that's what the mindset that I'm in just now, and I hate that. It feels like, as I said, for the last 18 months, we've been saying, let's just get these 2 or 3 games out the way, and then we'll see what happens. And it never happens. It never works that way. But that's the sort of mindset I'm in. I'm sort of unable to think, all right, this is Ross County. We could try this or we could try that. We're so hamstrung with what we've got. Is there anyone that you think maybe that hasn't been mentioned that could be part of these 5 players that you think is a possibility can come in and maybe stake a claim?
No, I'm like you. I don't know where it's coming from. Again, given how supportive he was of a few players, I can't see how he doesn't contradict himself if it is going to be 5. Is he going to play with the goalkeepers? I don't know. Yeah, look, the 3-3 was it was a day, wasn't it? Not just what happened up there, but what happened at Parkhead as well, and there was a sense of movement that day for sure. But we do get chances. It's a good pitch, even at this time of year. It's a good pitch. They do give space, so it's an opportunity. Even with all the factors you mentioned, Adam, just try to put a team out in the park, but Rangers can still play some football. It's not one of these they're booking in for bed and breakfast, and how do we get past them, break them down? It's not usually an endurance test up there. Set pieces are still a worry, aren't they? And that will remain. So I think we'll be all right. But what will be interesting if we do go ahead? Can we just go and get another? Can we just go and just grab a game for its entirety? Maybe we are expecting too much because of it's so makeshift at the minute, and people are just doing whatever shifts they can before they, need to go to their bed. I'm not sure, but they will offer up opportunities more than you would imagine. Motherwell will at Ibrox next Wednesday, and the Old Firm's the Old Firm. So I hope it's not the same. Or a win's a win's a win. So I'll take another one, thanks. But I don't see it quite being the same as Tuesday night or last Thursday either. But it'll probably be a wee while before Rangers concede a corner or a free kick around the box that I'm sanguine about it.
Yeah, I guess we will have to wait and see. As you said, fingers crossed it is not as stressful as the last week has been in terms of requiring comebacks, etc. Okay, I think that will do us for tonight. David, you'll be back at some point next week, I guess, after Christmas to preview the Motherwell game on the flagship.
I think Tuesday. Yeah, I wouldn't expect me on Boxing Day, folks, but
No.
I think that the normal Free Heart and Hand show will be with you on the 27th.
Okay, so I think we would just like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Fingers crossed Rangers have one more chance not to ruin Christmas for us. Let's hope that they do that tomorrow night. But wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. And David, thank you for joining me, and Merry Christmas to you.
Same to you, Adam. Same to you, Martyn, and to all the listeners. And just a little reminder that if you are looking for a last-minute gift for somebody, why not gift them a year's subscription to Heart and Hand on Patreon? Just go to patreon.com/Heart and Hand, and you'll be giving them a ticket to so many hours of great Rangers content. So if you're struggling for the Rangers supporter in your life, there you go.
I thought that was going to be a Manscaped ad there. I'm glad I avoided that. But Martyn, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. And yeah, Merry Christmas, boys. Merry Christmas, listeners. And thank you for all the support for the last year.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all very much. It is very much appreciated. And yes, fingers crossed our team wins tomorrow night. Thank you.